Look at this. DHT is a trash hormone. This is actually a phrase that gets like repeated throughout the web. And what I'm going to do is put to rest the idea that DHT is a trash hormone. I'm going to explain what my experience was at 152 nanograms per deciliter of DHT, which is uber super physiologic DHT. I'm going to explain like the differences in my sexual function, strength, energy, etc. with very, very high DHT versus just above the reference range DHT. We're going to talk about the nitric oxide mediated penile erection enhancement via DHT. We'll go through some studies on transdermal dihydrotestosterone or DHT in this video, and we're going to answer the question, all right, to this like oddly common phrase that's repeated that DHT is a trash hormone. So sit back, relax, strap in, and enjoy the show.
Hey, what up, say? One time for the hometown, I got love for it, it's real. Yeah. 2 times for the haters, man, cause I notice how this shit feel. 3 times for
before we start the video, guys, look, I got a quick announce. Coaching slots are booking up faster than they ever have any year, any time. So if you need to get on board with me with either the 90-day one-on-one hands-on coaching program or the 180-day one-on-one hands-on coaching program, you got to do it now. I mean, this is where we do large-scale work, TRT protocol design, restoring libido, restoring erectile function, restoring brain function, restoring dopamine, and a host of other things. You can hire me in under a minute at livecortex.com. Okay. All right. So let's read. Let me shrink myself first. Let's read this Reddit thread. Goes, DHT is a trash hormone. Guy goes, while DHT is an important hormone during puberty into adulthood. So kind of oxymoronic a little bit here. Like starts saying DHT is a trash hormone. That's the title of this thread, right? Then he goes, while DHT is an important hormone during puberty into adulthood. So yes, it is. DHT is a mostly useless hormone. I think so right away, like you've got to look at some of the people and the quality of people that are saying things like DHT is a trash hormone, right? That's the title, but then he goes into how it's important in adulthood, puberty as well. But then in the same sentence says it's mostly a useless hormone. He goes, all it does for men is enlarge the prostate, give us acne and skin blemishes, and of course make us go bald. DHT is very androgenic and potent. However, it is only strong on the prostate, skin, and the scalp. DHT is a shit hormone, and men should not fear drugs that inhibit it. Testosterone is far more important than DHT. Okay, where do I start on dispelling how terrifically wrong this is? Okay, so first of all, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. If you inhibit DHT as the OP in that post suggested, you're going to run into a whole host of problems if you're susceptible to it. Those problems include libido numbing, genital sensation numbing, a lack of erectile quality, a lack of ability to climax, otherwise known as PFS or post-finasteride syndrome. It is everywhere. It is diagnosed all around the medical literature and across various popular and well-respected medical journals. You don't want to inhibit 5-alpha reductase and thus DHT conversion if you don't have to. Let's go to some research papers, shall we? Here's a paper that's titled The Effects of Transdermal Dihydrotestosterone in the Aging Male, Prospective Randomized Double-Blind Study, in which they basically took 120 men and gave them DHT, transdermal DHT, and they really wanted to test what the effect was on sexual function. This is the aging male, by the way. They end up concluding transdermal administration of DHT improves sexual function and may be a useful alternative for androgen replacement. And this is an important key right here that they're going to break down. As estrogens are thought to play a role in the pathogenesis of prostate hyperplasia, DHT may be beneficial compared with aromatizing androgens in the treatment of aging men. Okay, so it's not as simple as DHT causes you to have an inflamed prostate. Estradiol plays a role in that. Prolactin plays a role in that, by the way. Go hyperprolactinemic for 2 years and you're going to have prostate issues. Let's talk about erections. Dihydrotestosterone in this paper is the active androgen in the maintenance of nitric oxide mediated penile erection in the rats. So they took these rats, they castrated them, and they recognized that the rats could actually get erectile function back if they had adequate levels of DHT. They end up concluding these results show that DHT is the active androgen in the prevention of erectile failure seen in castrated rats, and suggest that this effect may be mediated at least partially by changes in nitric oxide synthase levels. And the nitric oxide synthase is the primary chemical that you need to take your arginine, L-arginine, and convert it into nitric oxide. So what DHT is doing in this particular case, and this mirrors my experience, which we're going to get to next, is helping synthesize nitric oxide from its building block L-arginine. All right, so let's look at these labs, boys. So look, this was me on 5 pumps of testosterone cream. This was a 200 milligram, I believe, per milliliter Toppy Click container of testosterone cream. The stuff was very stimulating. Right? I've gone over my experience with cream before. It's very potent. I mean, you're peaking super physiologic or close to it within 2 hours after administration. I mean, going to the gym on testosterone cream is a completely different experience than like injecting even testosterone propionate, obviously testosterone cypionate, or enanthate. Like, it's just like you are on fire and energized and ready to go. So this is after about 40 days of running testosterone cream, 5 pumps a day. 3 of those pumps were scrotal application, 2 of those pumps were shoulder application. And this is the thing that I noticed with 152 nanograms per deciliter of DHT, which is super physiologic, versus what is super physiologic normally for me, but not quite as high as that. On TRT, like, you know, if your protocol is dialed in, estradiol is controlled, you're going to have spontaneous erections. Okay. Now, usually, sometimes it'll just be randomly out of nowhere, but a good degree of the spontaneous erections that come are usually induced by thought or touch. There's the automatic spontaneous erections that take place nocturnally and in the morning. So my protocols, like as I've switched to different protocols over the years, when they're dialed in, my spontaneous erections are nocturnal erections, morning erections, and then they're spontaneous throughout the day, but usually it's induced by thought or touch. At 152 nanograms per deciliter, super high DHT, I was getting spontaneous erections while doing nothing. Like, I'd just be sitting down working on my laptop and boom, I could just feel it coming on, almost as if I had taken like a really high dose of sildenafil or tadalafil. I did a video a long time ago on Trimix, which are injectable vasodilators for guys that have severe ED. And I tried Trimix and the shit is super effective. I mean, instant induction of erections. Like, that's how the DHT, the high DHT erections felt for me. Okay. They would just pop up out of nowhere. It'd be very firm and hard. I would do nothing. I didn't think anything. I wasn't watching porn. I wasn't thinking about a girl. It wasn't induced by touch. It would just happen out of nowhere. I will say though, that on pretty high DHT, I did have more acne than I typically have on TRT. I did not notice, probably because I really don't have the genetic underpinning to lose hair on androgens. I did not notice hair shedding or any significant loss of hair at the time. My hair kind of just stays the same. The only time on TRT when I start to lose hair or shed is if the aromatase inhibitor that I may be taking intermittently is dosed too fucking high. Why else is DHT important and not a trash hormone? Well, it actually antagonizes transcription factors after estradiol binds to estrogen receptors. DHT, as we've all sort of heard through the grapevine, does act in antagonistic fashion toward estradiol, which is useful for those of us that are on TRT, not to have all this estrogen receptor binding or estradiol-induced transcription activity. This is a paper that is titled Evaluation of Androgen Antagonism of Estrogen's Effect by Dihydrotestosterone, in which they say these findings suggest that the mechanism of DHT antagonism of estrogen effect in this organ system does not involve inhibition of synthesis of estrogen receptor, as has been shown with progesterone, but appears to occur by decreasing estrogen-induced RNA transcription at a point subsequent to estrogen receptor binding. Derek from More Plates, More Dates actually broke this down in a video a long time ago, so we've got Derek to thank for that. But ultimately what this is saying is that high levels of DHT, and DHT as one of its functions, decreases estrogen-induced RNA transcription at a point that is after estrogen binding to the estrogen receptors. So this is another reason that DHT is not a trash hormone. It's actually really effective and critically paramount in the context of TRT to ensure that you're not having excess side effects, which are kind of mainstay with elevated estradiol, from estradiol. Lastly, I think it's important to sort of like analyze like who is saying that DHT is a trash hormone. This is in a subreddit called Trestless, which is a hair loss community and people that suffer from alopecia and balding. So obviously these guys are going to be anti-DHT, right? Because DHT, although not the single contributor to hair loss, like in cases where you have high androgens or MPB, is a contributor to hair loss, right? I mean, people get a massive alleviation from what is significant hair loss when they're taking things like Propecia, finasteride, and others, which are 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. Lastly, though, kind of as a nail in the coffin, this idea that DHT is definitely not a trash hormone. Like, well, what of people taking Proviron and Primobolan and other DHT derivatives like Winstrol, like, and getting positive muscle building effects, libido effects? Like, if you go read about the DHT derivatives that people take that are, you know, either on testosterone or not on testosterone, but usually in the context of being on TRT, like, the libido stories are actually crazy. Here's one titled, "I solved my libido problem with Proviron. So what should I do now?" Proviron, otherwise known as Misterolone, is a synthetic DHT derivative, which is very, very potent, potently androgenic, somewhat potently anabolic, that does, Misterolone specifically, antagonize transcriptional activity post-estrogen receptor binding, but at the same time has the ability to actually occupy the aromatase enzyme. So although it's not as powerful as something like Rimedac, Proviron is technically an aromatase inhibitor, right? All things considered. Guy goes, "After successfully addressing my libido problem with Proviron." Keep in mind, this is a guy on DHT, or this is a guy that it's on TRT, right? I mean, this renders the DHT is a trash hormone argument completely nil. "I'm unsure about my next steps. Dealing with low libido for a year has been incredibly challenging and has taken a toll on my mental well-being." Well, of course it does. Yes, DHT might be the answer. Guy goes, "I suspect my testosterone might not be converting to DHT, but there are no DHT tests available in my country, and my doctor suggests seeing a psychiatrist instead." Okay. Dude. 25 milligrams of Misterolone, which is Proviron, made me feel aroused and interested in connecting with others. However, I'm worried about the long-term safety of the use of Proviron as I suffer from hypogonadism. TRT is crucial for me. Here's a guy that started taking Primobolan 100 milligrams a week and a little bit of P5P. I mean, this is a dude that's been on TRT for 8 months, didn't have libido and sexual function, suddenly got libido back after 3 fucking years by taking, what do you know, a DHT derivative. All right, so look, you know, this gets tossed around, and I've even had it commented here in the comment section on the channel. Is DHT a trash hormone? DHT is a trash hormone? No, the answer is it is not, right? It is a massive facilitator of erectile function in men. When mine was uber super physiologic, I was getting crazy spontaneous erections, far more and far stronger than just TRT, HCG, and managing estradiol. My libido was absolutely fucking insatiable when my DHT was very high. Transdermal administration of DHT improves sexual function in the aging male. And if you castrate a rat and they have no erections and then you give them DHT, they actually have prevention of erectile difficulties and are able to regain erection quality from just DHT via optimizing nitric oxide synthase, which is converting L-arginine into usable nitric oxide for better erections. Okay, so yes, past range for some people, it's going to give them problems, going to make them overstimulated. It may cause hair loss. It may cause inflaming of the prostate. Yes, I mean, like, hormones in super physiologic ranges for an individual that's susceptible to side effects when said hormones are in super physiologic ranges, like, might not be a good idea. However, DHT, I can tell you from my experience and the scientific literature and other people's anecdotals out there, is not a trash hormone. All right. You don't want to block 5-alpha reductase. You don't want to block the conversion of tests to DHT in the context of a TRT protocol and optimizing sexual function. Regardless, DHT is paramount. If you need to hire me for TRT protocol advice, all right, that's full protocol design, general TRT advice, testosterone dose adjustment advice, estrogen control advice, libido modulation, erectile function advice, host of other things, you can do that on underaminutelifecortex.com. Listen, guys, the bigger package is the 90-day one-on-one hands-on coaching program, 180-day one-on-one hands-on coaching program. This is where we get a lot of work done. For those of you with the budget, understand that sexual dysfunction, libido issues, dopamine issues, neurological issues, brain performance issues, these things take time to resolve. If you want to get to the bottom of it, this is what I do. It is my primary specialty. Hire me in under a minute at livecortex.com. Go for either 3 months, 6 months, or if you have the budget and you're a hard charging business person, let's do an entire fucking year together. As usual, 2 epically powerful nootropic stacks, the Torque stack and the Cortex stack. You can buy those now at livecortex.com or down the description of the video as well. All right, everybody, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Hope that you got some useful information out of this video. Please sub to the channel if you haven't. Like the video, it makes a huge difference out there in the algorithm. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you have a great week moving forward, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.